Hello? Is anyone there? Wait! Damn it. What's a kid doing here? quite the artist.
ask me why they call me the Drink. Well, here's what happened. Basically, I came back from the future, and Frieza was waiting for me. And this nigga said,
"You think you're the Drink, bitch? You're not even the cup. This nigga got a middle pump with a low taper and
this nigga's the Drink. This nigga's liquidity. He can't be a solid. Niggas call me the Drink.
They call him the what?
When I was a kid, niggas call me the Juice Box. But now I'm the Drink.
They call him the what? A beverage of sorts.
Vegeta's the cup. Because he is my father. My son is the Drink. I am the cup. I don't give a fuck. They call me the cup. When my son was a kid, niggas look at his liquidity and at his riz. Don't tell me that shit isn't skibbity. We in the club popping bottles like 50. No cent, it's 50 thou. Why all these bitch niggas running they mouth like.
They call him the what? Crazy pop. Okay, monkey. They call him the what? Niggas call me the parfait. Cause I'm sweet in the cut. Can you suck on my what? Can I call you the slut? All niggas I have a taste for. You just have to look at my past. It's a bomb toppy I crave for. Although you were the last, I miss you.
I don't know about that. Ginyu's dead, so I'm smoking a pack. This nigga Frieza think he's really him. He must be smoking on crack.
They call him the what?
Niggas call me the Drink. I'm a rich nigga paid so she wanted to link. Fuck you know about that. This nigga gay, you could call him the Twink. Bitch, my pocket's fucking fat. Put a scope on a cake cause it's one of my kinks. Frieza, you're just a fucking scrub. Niggas call me the cup and I don't give a fuck. Frieza, what the fuck is up? You be smoking on crack, I be smoking on dubs. Niggas call me the Drink.
A new emotion! Wow!
Barry?
In my restless dreams, I see that tune.
I guess I really don't care if it's dangerous or not.
Solitude. You promised you'd take me there again. Do I look like your girlfriend?
Why didn't you try to save me? You're supposed to take care of me!
I'll always love you. Did something happen to you? Even though our life together had to end like this, we had some wonderful years together. I can't tell you to remember me, but I can't bear
That's why I needed you.
Don't leave me alone.
I need someone to punish me for my sins.
Tell me I'm not going to die.
That's all.
I'd never kill myself.
I told you that I wanted to die, James. James. Please. Please do something for me. Go on with your life.
Power Ranger suits were made. 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 Power Ranger suits were made.
The Phantom Liberty expansion added a new ending to the base game of Cyberpunk 2077, and it's a really remarkable conclusion to V's story. I've seen a lot of people describe this new ending as depressing, tragic, upsetting, even disturbing. And that's unfortunate because this ending is a lot more than that. It's not just meant to make you sad. This new ending is one of the most grounded, most realistic, and most sober endings I've ever experienced in a video game, which is kind of shocking because Cyberpunk is such an over-the-top and often ludicrous setting. Part of the fun of the Cyberpunk setting is that it's so crazy and so ostentatious. Night City is a really loud setting, full of blazing neon lights, larger-than-life characters, huge action set pieces, and incredible heists. But this new ending is undeniably quiet, totally contrary to everything else in the game in terms of tone and style. I wouldn't go so far as to describe it as subtle, because I think it really bludgeons the player in the head with its themes, but it's much slower and more thoughtful than a lot of the rest of the game. I don't think this ending is depressing at all. It's a bit melancholy, in the way that change always feels melancholy, but it's actually a much happier ending than most people are realizing. It's not happy because V gets to go on living the exact same life in the exact same way, in the exact same place with all the exact same companions as before, which is what a lot of people interpret as being a happy ending. Instead, this ending is happy because it allows V the opportunity to find happiness in a new life. Of course, he isn't a happy character at the end of this conclusion, at least not yet, and for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to use male pronouns with the character because that's how I played him. In this conclusion, V has lost his old life. which is sad, but he also has the opportunity to go make a new life, to live any sort of life he wants, and to go anywhere he wants to go, which is a freedom this character has never had before. Now he gets to live the life of all successful heroes, which is just to live an ordinary life, a quiet life, a peaceful life. This is a very literary type ending. This is the sort of quiet and thoughtful conclusion I would expect to find in a novel rather than in a bombastic action video game. Very early in the game, V is asked a question by the fixer Dexter Deshawn, and I'm going to play that clip now. Here it is.
Mind if I ask you something right off the bangle? Would you rather live in peace as Mr. Nobody, die ripe, old, and smelling slightly of urine, or go down for all times in a blaze of glory, smelling near like posies, without seeing your 30th?
If you look at these dialogue choices, you'll notice that we can only really choose to say yes, even if the player would prefer to say no. Because V is not just an avatar for the player, V is an actual character with his own motivations and dreams separate from whatever the player wants. And at this point in the story, V would rather die in a blaze of glory. V wants to become a legend and not necessarily a living legend. With this new ending, the writers have finally allowed V to make a different choice. To, as Deshawn puts it, live in peace as Mr. Nobody, die ripe, old, and smelling slightly of urine. Cyberpunk 2077 is a story about the quest for survival. All V wanted to do was live. Well, this is life. This ending is what life is. This is what he was fighting for all along, even if he didn't quite realize it. Change is life. Losing touch with old friends is life. Becoming physically incapable of doing things you used to do is life. Moving to a new place, a new job, is life. But I'm getting way ahead of myself here. To understand this ending, you really have to understand all the choices that led up to it, the whole journey. What I want to do now is follow this conclusion from its beginning to its end, from the first choice to the last, to explain why this isn't a sad ending, but actually an ending full of promise and potential. So, to reach this ending, V has to make a couple of serious, dramatic sacrifices. In order to live, he has to sacrifice the lives of others. The first step on the chopping block of survival is Songbird. I'm definitely going to do a full analysis of Songbird sometime because I think she's a really well-written character. Songbird is on a parallel journey to V. They are both fighting for the same thing, survival. Songbird is willing to do just about anything to survive, lie to anyone, manipulate anyone, sacrifice anyone, sort of. Songbird tries to have her cake and eat it too by both sacrificing people and then trying to save them afterwards, by always playing both sides, and it predictably blows up in her face most of the time. It's also worth noting that for Songbird, survival means more than just being alive, but we'll discuss all that more in a Songbird-focused video later. For now, the point is that in this setting, which is a very pessimistic and cynical setting, even more pessimistic and cynical than real life in some ways, survival means sacrifice. In Night City, if you want to survive, you have to sacrifice someone else, a lesson that both Songbird and V learn. The only way V can live is if he forces Songbird into a fate that she describes as worse than death. This can happen in two ways. First, after a pretty wild and desperate flight, Songbird loses everything and basically begs for death. V must then refuse and allow her to be captured by the FIA instead. This is arguably actually the better path, since you could tell yourself that you are saving her life, even though she makes it clear that she doesn't want to live, and that she believes being captured would be worse than death. Because in the other path, after a furious battle through a spaceport, a weakened Songbird reveals that she was lying all along, that she was never going to help cure V, that she always planned to take the only cure for herself. Then you have to take a Songbird who very much wants to stay alive, and who has fought her way all the way to the very threshold of survival, and betray her, sell her out, actively choose to trade her life in exchange for a cure. Either way, V is trading her life for for his own. It is a selfish choice. It is a cynical choice. But the sacrifices don't end there. V also has to sacrifice the life of Johnny Silverhand. While this version of Silverhand is an AI construct, he's also a sentient, conscious being, capable of thought, feeling, emotion, pain, and longing, just like any other person. You will develop a close relationship with him just by way of proximity, by how often you interact with him, whether you like it or not. However, there was really never any other way. Silverhand and V are two personalities inhabiting a single body, and that body is dying. In most of the previous versions, at best, V would get to live a few months more in his dying body. The new ending opens up a new path. Let V live a very long life in a damaged version of that body and let Silverhand pass away. I'd like to play a couple clips of Silverhand's dialogue here so that we can better understand this choice.
Say you told the FIA to stick their offer where the sun don't shine. Just don't make the call to Reed. We'll find another way.
Do what now?
Message. Didn't see it? They want to wipe me. Need me to explain the ins and outs?
Come on, you knew I'd fight for my life to the end, no matter the price. It's obvious to you as it was to me.
Call me a chump, but I never thought I'd be that price. Come on, V. Don't make the call.
Figuring out something that might work versus a surgical procedure. Choice is clear, Johnny. Raise Reed on the hollow.
So this is how it ends.
How else do you see it playing out? It's my body.
And it's my life.
The hell you want from me, Johnny?
Acknowledgement, decency, a sprinkling of regret, and an apology.
Want an apology for me choosing to save my own life?
No, V. An apology for fucking ending mine.
Just want to live, Johnny. Been clear about that from the start.
There were options. Could have gone with Alt, blasted our way into Mikoshi.
But I didn't. You can't fault me for picking the safer route.
You want me to act like this? Us was just a big nothing burger, and we'll just drift off into sweet slumber. Except only one of us is waking up.
I'm sorry, Johnny. Sorry you couldn't go out on your terms. The way you wanted. Shouldn't be like this, I know.
You're just spewing words.
Fine. Yeah. But I wanted you to hear them.
In this dialogue, Silverhand is essentially begging for his own life. At the core, Silverhand is saying, please don't kill me. It's an emotional plea. It's not a manipulation. It's a genuine plea asking for the same thing that V is fighting for, survival. Silverhand is still pretty stoic about it. He has too much self-respect and too much dignity to beg outright. In the end, he'll do the only thing he can do, which is fade away into nothingness after one last look at the skyline of Night City. For the writers, the primary purpose of this dialogue is to get the player to feel the weight of this decision. They want you to feel like you are sacrificing another person's life for your own, and that person knows you are doing it, is hurt by it. Silverhand is a complicated character, a terrorist, an asshole, but also something of an idealist, someone who really seems to believe that he can fight and rip and tear his way into a better world. And in this ending, V chooses to silence Silverhand forever, both his rage and his idealism. for the sake of his own survival. It's a totally understandable choice. It's a sympathetic choice. It's a choice a lot of us would make in his place, but it's still a selfish choice. It's an ugly choice. It's never pretty when you choose yourself over someone else, even when that choice is justified. We humans are social and empathetic creatures. We don't like hurting others, even when there's no other way. Of course, V doesn't get to sacrifice all these people, hurt all these other people, and then everything just goes back to the way it was, happy and dandy, no consequences. Narratively, choices as dramatic as these require dramatic consequences. It would be thematically unsatisfying if V got to move on scot-free after all this. It would be bad writing. So now let's watch another clip to see exactly what that narrative thematic consequence is going to be.
Because there is one. Deep invasive work on your nervous system. To cut the engram out safely.
What's that even mean?
Your neurons can no longer handle most implants. Chrome. Your brain can manage your personal link and simple code processors. But any use of a combat implant, well, it could kill you. I'm sorry, V. But the life you used to know is gone. There's, one other thing. You were out for 2 years. It's 2079.
As far as narrative consequences go, I actually think this is pretty mild. V is getting off pretty easy here. In exchange for sacrificing 2 close friends, he gets to live on in a damaged body that is incapable of using combat implants. To be honest, that doesn't sound all that bad. Alright, so 2 notes here. First, the physical damage to V's body here is meant to narratively mirror the emotional damage that results from his choices. Second, his physical inability to return to his old life is also meant to narratively mirror the character's emotional inability to return to his old life. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit so I can fully explain both of these points. V sacrificed both Songbird and Silverhand to get here. You, the audience, are meant to develop an emotional connection with both of these characters. You aren't necessarily meant to like them, but the writers do want you to empathize with them, to understand the choices they make, to recognize the humanity of their choices. V, as a character, develops a bond with both of these companions. He comes to trust them, care about them, fight alongside them, go through hell with them. Betraying them is not an easy choice. Unless V is a sociopath who is incapable of empathizing with others, he will inevitably feel some guilt and shame for this choice, even if it is justified. He must feel emotional pain, experience emotional damage, in order to be a fuller character. A character who didn't feel even an ounce of guilt or shame or trauma from those choices would be a stale and shallow character. A lot of times in fiction, because emotional damage can be very subtle and difficult to portray, writers will have that emotional damage manifest itself in some physical way, some way that's easier for the audience to see. That's what's happening to V in this hospital bed. The damage to his body matches the emotional damage that his choices have caused him, gives the audience a way to sort of get a hold of that damage, to see it clearly.
In my restless dreams,
his inability to return to his old life is narratively doing something similar. When a character makes a choice as consequential and as dramatic as, I'm going to sacrifice this person's life so that I can live, that character can't ever go back to living their old life exactly the way they lived it before. Not because the world has changed, but because the character has changed. That kind of choice should fundamentally change the character in some way, in the same way that it would change a real person. But once again, that kind of change is very subtle and very internal and thus difficult to portray to an audience. Once again, writers will often try to find some physical way to show it to us. In the case of this new ending, the writers did two things. First, they damaged his body, wrote it so that he can't use combat implants anymore, can't be a mechanical monster mercenary any longer. But that's not quite enough. V could still potentially go back home, return to some version of his previous life even with this damage. So on top of that, the writers concocted this 2-year time skip. 2 years have passed since V made those dramatic choices. Now he really can't go back to his old life because his old life is gone. Everyone he ever knew has moved on. They've all been living their lives for these last 2 years. He can't just fit himself neatly back into those relationships. For most of them, there simply isn't room for him anymore. A lot can change in 2 years. People will change in 2 years. The purpose of all of this is to force V to change as well, to be changed by his choices. Except the character of V hasn't realized that yet, which we're gonna see in this next clip, when V is offered a new path and he refuses it. Here it is.
V, listen to me. Your body, it ain't going back to what it was. And Nancy's a city where you just won't manage. Not anymore. Please understand. I'd like to spare you that disappointment at least.
Great. And what comes next?
We truly appreciate what you did for us. We can set you up with a job here in Langley.
And what would I do? Be your assistant? Errand rover? I know you're trying to help, but you damn well know that's not for me.
I know I'd feel better seeing you off the street.
This isn't my life, Reed.
But it could be, given your old one is long gone.
The first time I watched this scene, I was so frustrated by it. I could not believe that V was refusing to take this offer. Reed is offering him a solid government job with a guaranteed salary, what sounds like easy work, a decent work-life balance, vacation, sick leave, healthcare, retirement, a safer and more peaceful environment, a home near actual trees, nature, greenery. What he's really offering is stability, normalcy, safety. Maybe this is just a sign that I'm getting older, but how the heck do you say no to this offer? Especially if you have literally nothing else lined up as an alternative. But when I thought about it more, V's choice here made more sense to me. V just isn't ready to give up his old life yet. He's not ready to face the reality that, as a consequence of his own choices, of his traumatic struggle for survival, he simply cannot rewind the clock. He will have to have this new reality literally beat into him. And there's a bit more to it than that too. He's not just refusing to move on from his old life, but he's also refusing to give up on his dreams. At the start of the game, V was an ambitious character. He did want to achieve great things. He wanted to become a legend. He wanted to be remembered. He wanted to leave his mark on the world. Now he has to come to terms with just being an ordinary person, not being a legend, not being someone extraordinary. And of course, Night City is his home, the only home he has ever known. In an attempt to fit himself back into a world that doesn't have any room for him any longer, V returns to Night City, returns to the only friend there he has left, Victor. During this journey through Night City, we see in the visual design how much has changed. The departure of Arasaka, the arrival of new corporations. It's so different that V feels like an alien in his own hometown. Victor is welcoming, but things have changed here too. The comfortable garage man cave atmosphere of Victor's clinic is long gone, replaced by a more sterilized corporate aesthetic. The writers don't want you to feel comfortable here anymore. They want you to feel out of place. Not only is Victor unable to help V, but he doesn't even have time for V anymore. Our powwow is interrupted by the arrival of another patient. Outside the clinic, V is finally physically forced to understand how little he fits in this new world, how impossible it will be to return to his old life. Let's watch that clip now.
Well, well. See that, Jimmy? He a corpo rat.
Chill, man. Easy.
Come on, hand over your scratch. Let's go.
Know a few peeps here. They'd see this as a fucking problem.
Some boss dog gonna scare me?
Padre instills a fear of God and man.
Old road cooped on Los Haywood. I don't think so. Booyah!
Throughout the game, V has battled with a lot of truly incredible opponents, like crazy monsters, and won. V himself is a crazy monster. He is a walking one-man army. Previously, these two jerkwads would be nothing to him, easily swatted aside. But he just isn't that character anymore. And being so easily beaten by these two nobodies is meant to demonstrate what a nobody V himself has become. This confrontation is the final nail in the coffin of V's old life. Lying on the filthy ground of a back alley, beaten and humiliated, V finally accepts that he must start a new life, must make a new choice. But this isn't really a bad thing. This doesn't have to be a depressing realization. That V has this choice at all is incredible. Previously, he had no future. He had no choice. He was dying. Now he has more choices than he knows what to do with, more opportunities than he even realizes. He had to make a lot of tragic sacrifices to get here, and he had to go through a lot of misery to actually accept his new circumstances. But now that he's here, now that he's accepted it, the whole world is open to him. He can go anywhere. I'm gonna skip past the pep talk with Misty and straight to the end. To finish this video, let's watch the very last scene in the game together. I really love this ending. The camera pulls out of the first-person viewpoint, and then V is simply lost in the crowd. One more bystander, one more NPC in Night City moving in the background, one more person living their own ordinary, anonymous life, just like the rest of us. V spent this entire story fighting for survival, to save his life, but I don't think this character quite realized what life actually is. He seemed to believe that his life of brawling and wheeling and dealing in the gutters of Night City was all life would ever be. V was so focused on survival that I don't think he ever really thought about what he would do with his life if he survived this whole traumatic and perilous journey. I really think that fading into the crowd was always going to be his best case scenario, moving on with his life, with a certainty that he was going to get to live at all, finding somewhere he can live in peace. This is the happiest ending he could have hoped for. In most fiction, the reward for completing the hero's journey is never to just keep going on more and more adventures forever and ever. Eventually, the hero has to retire. Eventually, the hero has to stop being a hero. This is V's reward. He has fought, he has bled, he has sacrificed, and now he gets to live. No, he doesn't get to live with all the friends he made along the way, but now he can build new relationships without the weight of impending death looming over his head. No, he doesn't get to be a suave Night City mercenary anymore, but he does get to be literally anything else. To live any other life he chooses. No, he doesn't get to be a legend, but he does get to be happy, or at least he gets to try to be happy, which is as much as any of us can ever really hope for.
You know, they don't make horror games like they used to.
You've got to believe me. I haven't gone crazy. I'm not fooling around.
Good horror games aren't as prolific as they used to be. It seems as though you're always one Google search from being overloaded by the next Mascot, Analog, or Garden of Banban horror video. What? Popular horror games these days all look and feel this way because, well, they're made for children, and that's where big money is made. Five Nights at Freddy's commercial success was the catalyst that brought us to this point, but horror games weren't always this way. A good horror game leaves you with lingering questions long after the credits roll. What would you have done if you were in that situation? What secrets or lore did you not pick up on your first playthrough? But the best horror games leave you mentally distraught. They toy with your primal terrors, exploiting your vulnerabilities, and forcing you to confront your deepest fears head on. The one franchise that makes me feel this way is Silent Hill. I have a confession to make. I did not play the OG Silent Hill when I made this video. Everything you see today is running off an emulator.
Money!
Despite having a perfectly good PS1 Slim, I refuse to pay the price to get a physical copy of this game. Prices these days can range from $145 to $300 for a copy of this game. So the end result was I ended up with a setup you probably haven't seen much on YouTube. All footage was captured and emulated through the Steam Deck, running through a Steam dock into an Elgato capture card. This is important because this is not the purest way to play this game. This is emulation with all of its quirks and jitters. Thankfully, there wasn't too much of it, but if there's anything that stands out to you as being kind of weird, that's why. Silent Hill 1 opens with an abrupt car crash. Harry Mason, our playable character, finds himself in this situation after swerving in the road to avoid hitting a teenage girl. Tragically, his 7-year-old daughter Cheryl was in the car during the crash and is now missing. This gives us a clear objective. We need to find our missing daughter. Something you notice right away is the 4:3 aspect ratio and low polygons. This is the granddaddy of all Silent Hill games, given that it was made in the late 90s. The game shows its age for sure, especially in those CGI cutscenes, but for its time, this was top tier AAA goodness. Nowadays, you could play this game at a 16:9 ratio, especially since we're emulating it. In an effort to preserve some of that authentic feel, for the duration of this video, we will be playing in a 4:3 aspect ratio, just like the developers intended. Not too far away from our busted up Jeep, a familiar convenience store caught my eye. Before we can enter the bootleg 7-Eleven, the sounds of squishy footsteps trod behind us. We dash after it and come face to face with what appears to be our daughter.
Cheryl? Is that Cheryl?
Determined to not let the little shit run away from us again, we follow Cheryl through an alleyway and past a metal gate. A gruesome sight awaits us. This looks like someone ate a cow whole and shit out its insides. It's disturbing, even for 90s graphics. Further down the alley, our vision gets darker and sirens wail louder. Our trusty lighter will have to guide us going forward. Beyond this point, weird stuff starts happening. Barrels appear out of nowhere, with some even blocking our way back. A broken wheelchair and cadaver phase seemingly out of nowhere, as if someone purposely put them there. But things go from weird to dangerous real quick when we notice a body chained to a metal fence.
What is this? What's going on here?
Before we can process what's happening, we are jumped by an enemy type known as the Grey Child. This is the first enemy you will encounter in a Silent Hill playthrough. Well, if you're in North America. See, unaliving children is a big no-no in Europe and Japan, so this definitely was not getting past censors. In America though, you can shoot them little shits as much as you like. If you play an international copy, you'll be greeted by the Mumbler instead. This enemy type is still present in the North American version, but much later in the game. The gray child is exactly how it sounds like. It's a toddler with pale grayish green skin wielding a rather long knife. But with nowhere to run and nowhere to hide, Harry Mason gets shanked in the side. Or so we thought. Harry comes face to face with a police officer, one that was teased in the opening cinematic. This is Sybil Bennett.
You from around here? Why don't you tell me what happened?
Have you seen a little girl, just turned 7 last month, short, black hair? My daughter.
Sorry. The only person I've seen in this town is you.
Sybil will be a friendly face to Harry going forward. She wants to figure out what's going on in this town just as much as he does. From what I've gathered, Sybil's character is one of those wrong place, wrong time situations. There isn't a direct reason why Silent Hill brought her here. In fact, she's from a town over called Brams. She just happened to find Harry after his wreck and with a sense of duty, wants to see things through.
I'm going back to call in some reinforcements. Hold it. Where do you think you're going?
My daughter. I've got to find her.
Yeah, dialogue can be a bit janky in its own charming way. The PS1 lacked the power to make detailed facial animations in real time, but I have to say that it plays in the game's favor. It creates this unsettling low poly horror aesthetic, and I'm here for it.
Before you pull the trigger, know who you're shooting. And don't do it unless you have to.
Sybil gives the player their first firearm in the game, and at this point, you have to figure out what to do next. Silent Hill as a series is known for not holding the player's hand. With that said, we find a flashlight, health drink, and a map of Silent Hill's residential area. The game also teaches us how to save by leaving a notepad right next to these interactable items. This is the only way you can save the game, so finding these is very important. Before we can leave, a radio starts to go a little off its rocker.
Huh. Radio. What's going on with that radio?
Huh? Gotcha, bitch!
It wouldn't be a horror game if they didn't throw an enemy right after getting your first weapon. This Flappy Bird is known as the Air Screamer, and it's the second enemy you will encounter. It looks like a pteranodon, but with a closer eye, there are legs with a human torso. Killing this enemy awards the pocket radio. This item is essential.
I'll be able to do something with my guitar in hands that you'll never be able to achieve in your entire life, kid. So yeah, you're gay.
The ringing sound you heard alerts the player that a monster is nearby. You can turn it off, but there really isn't a benefit to doing so. Leaving the cafe, Harry notes that we should check the alleyway. Silent Hill will rarely give you the answer, but it will point you in the right direction. Keep in mind the town is cascaded in fog. Unless you're very familiar with this game, you will be opening and closing your map frequently. It can become slightly annoying due to the slow transitions. I really couldn't tell you if that's intentional or not, or if it's just a hardware limitation. I promise you get used to it over time, and it's really not that bad. In the alleyway, our radio starts to make quite a fuss, and for good reason. There are killer dogs on the loose, and they think Harry is a big old juicy T-bone steak. These guys are called the Groaner in-game, and is only found in the outside areas of Silent Hill. The best way to deal with them is to avoid them. If you find yourself in a situation where you're forced to fight them, firearms will be your best bet. Melee, although possible, is not recommended. They circle and lunge the player aggressively, and having a smaller frame means that hitting them can be quite difficult, especially without trading blows. We can find a nice stash of handgun bullets, a steel pipe, and a few clues. A crudely drawn note implies that Cheryl went to the local school.
Isn't the Cheryl sketchbook? She's at the school.
Our map tells us that this is Midwich Elementary, so the next step is simple enough. Go to the school, let's find Cheryl. However, this is Silent Hill we're talking about. If you take any route that leads to the school, you will find that some asshole completely destroyed all the roads leading to Midwich. Eventually, I found a dead end that contained a peculiar note: doghouse on Levin Street. Approaching the doghouse, Harry will find a hidden key. Should you visit before reading the note, Harry will refuse to interact with it. The hidden key opens the house directly in front of us. Inside, we'll find a tidy little home with lots of ammo and health drinks. There are 2 locked doors inside the house, one of which we will come back to much later, but currently the back is our main focus. A map with the phrase "Keys for Eclipse" hangs on the wall, along with 3 distinct locks keeping us from opening the back door. Key 1 is found on a police car in the outskirts of town. Key 2 is inside a mailbox hanging over the abyss. But key 3 is the weirdest one of them all. The key is inside a basketball court. Nothing crazy on the surface. It's not until you look at the floor and realize that some sick bastard used the dog head to shoot some hoops. I have a good feeling that whoever is behind this, they really don't like dogs. But what if I told you there was a deeper meaning to all of this? The keys are a reference to the Wizard of Oz. The keys are called Lion, Woodman, and Scarecrow, referring to the Cowardly Lion, Brave Tin Man, and Naive Scarecrow. If you think that's a stretch, look at the keys themselves. There are images of these characters imprinted on them. The locations even tie into the characters of Oz. The Lion key is found near a police car, something that is typically associated with courage. On top of that, there is a giant abyss behind it. In the book, the lion has to leap over a chasm with Dorothy and the others on his back. Similar connections can be made to the Key of Woodman, referring to the Tin Man of Oz. The severed dog heads I was just talking about, well, did you know in the book he had to decapitate a pack of wolves to save his friends? Same goes for the Scarecrow. You cross a fallen tree to reach the mailbox with the key. In the book, Scarecrow suggests cutting down a tree in order to cross a valley. With our history lesson over and keys in hand, we can open the back door. When the game said keys for Eclipse, they were not joking. The sky fades, obscuring our vision as ominous music builds in the background. Pitch black night surrounds the player as hostiles multiply in strength and numbers. I did not save my game before this happened, and I did not want to F around nor find out, so I ran directly to Midwich. The first thing that caught my eye was a map of the school grounds. The layout indicates that there's a second floor and basement level. Through the lobby, an unsettling track rings in our ears. Making things even creepier, the audio will sometimes cut out in different rooms, causing nerve-wracking silence. Imagery in the school is very unsettling. Pictures that definitely shouldn't belong in elementary school are here. But that's not the only thing here. The gray children from earlier have infested the school, meaning that every door that you open could be a potential encounter. With many of the doors locked, going through the school can be quite a puzzle. With your skewed sense of direction, the game will slowly start to toy with the player's mind. But to make things even worse, the next door I entered, I could hear the sounds of rattling. Almost like a machine was running. But this doesn't make any sense. There isn't even any electricity running. As I inched closer, I wondered, was it even worth it? Do I even have to go here? But something compelled me, and we stepped closer and closer. Oh shit. Now, what really got me wasn't the fact that there was a small jump scare, but I got a cat killed. And for no reason. If you look inside the locker, there isn't anything in there. Had I never entered this room and opened the locker door, this cat would have been perfectly okay. But this interaction tells us 2 things. 1, there is something on the loose that can swallow a cat whole. And the second thing is, we need to find Cheryl and get the hell out of here. To progress through Midwich, first thing you need to do is find the lab equipment room and look for a bottle of chemicals on the shelves. This can be used in the chemistry room to unlock an item to progress through the game. The bottle of chemicals melts a statue of a hand that is clutching a golden medallion. A few rooms over, my radio started pinging, but I couldn't tell what I was looking at. Shining the flashlight, I discovered these little derpy ghost babies. They even fall over if you spook them with your flashlight. They even gravitate towards the player with zero malice in them. I learned that these little guys are called larval stalkers. It's actually what spooked me earlier when I shot at the bookcase. Their timing and introduction is genius. Up until this point, the game has conditioned the player to associate radio hums for danger.
You clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in. I am the danger.
Our expectations are subverted when we see these little goofballs stumbling over themselves. I know it's a small interaction, but it's moments like this that are quite memorable in Silent Hill 1. Back in the courtyard where we first fought the Grey Children, there's a clock tower with 2 slots that could easily fit a medallion. With medallion in place, we can now enter the piano room to solve a puzzle. I don't know how anyone without a guidebook or internet in 1999 was able to solve this. You have to read this poem on the back of the board about birds, and that will tell you which keys to hit. I'm oversimplifying it, but just know I spent a solid hour trying to figure this out myself before I just ended up Googling it. Also, a fun fact that most people don't know, if you reset the game while doing the piano puzzle, you hear a unique sound effect of someone slamming the piano keys. Seems like the developers knew that this part would be very frustrating for some. Completing the task gives us the silver medallion. Inserting it into the clock tower allows us to go into the basement boiler room. Inside, we can turn on a generator, and doing so unlocks a hidden passage inside the clock tower. The passageway is nothing short of creepy. As we descend the ladder, the all too familiar air sirens start to ring out. You know some shit is about to go down. Up another set of ladders, we end up at a door that looks oddly familiar.
Where am I? Have I been here before? I don't remember this being here before.
Harry is correct. This giant symbol was not here before. This is still Midwich Elementary, but has been shifted into the Nightmare Realm from the beginning of the game. At this point, we can infer that whenever the sirens go off, that means that we're going to be teleported to this realm. Inside the realm, it's an industrialized hellscape. Everything is made out of rusty metal, and blood seemingly seeps out of every crevice. To get out of here, we need to find a pink rubber ball. I know that sounds strange, but hear me out, it will all make sense here soon. After getting the rubber ball, you'll encounter a new enemy called the Creeper. They're insects that swarm the player when light is flashed. Very easy to kill, and even easier to avoid, so that's what we're gonna do. Inside an upper classroom, we can find a picture card with 3 black squares and a silhouette of a key on it. If you recall, when we first entered Midwich, we saw a disturbing painting of 2 people chained to a wall. Well, we are here, and using the picture card, we can unlock a door with 3 similar black squares. Doing so gives us access to the west wing of the school, where we can enter the boys' bathroom and find a unique item. Next to a corpse and past the toilets, we get our hands on the shotgun. I know, weird place to keep one, but then I remember this is America, so I'll let it slide. The shotgun is the second firearm you will find in a Silent Hill playthrough. Although small, it's quite mighty. We will save it for later though. One of the ways the game will mess with the player is by warping your surroundings when entering and leaving rooms. On my left, you can see the door with 3 squares. I enter this room, but when I leave, that door is nowhere to be found. I enter the room again, and upon leaving, the damn door is back. So yes, I'm not capping, there is some teleporting hijinks going on. Inside a classroom, a set of deep blue telephones are scattered all around. Trying to interact with them was fruitless, but upon leaving, they suddenly came to life.
Cheryl!
This is the first time Cheryl has directly spoke with the player since the car crash. This is great news because it shows that despite all the horrors happening in Silent Hill, Cheryl is still alive and is looking for us. Deeper into the school, we come across a familiar room, but this time in the nightmare realm. I know this has happened before, but the beating sounds perplexed me even more, because the previous time we were here, the cat in the locker was killed. So approaching this sound again, I wasn't sure what we would find. But thankfully, approaching the locker, there's nothing to be found besides splatters of blood. Which at this point in the game isn't too surprising. So I ended up leaving. There it is. So yeah, anytime you're in this room, expect a jump scare of some kind. We did get something this time around, and it's the library reserve key. Put a footnote in your brain because I'm sure we'll come back to this key very soon. With all these items in hand, you're probably wondering, what the hell do we do with the pink rubber ball? I didn't forget, it's all going to come together right now. On the rooftop, there's a set of keys stuck inside a hole, too small and way too deep for our meaty hands to reach inside. Using the pink rubber ball, we can plug a hole in the middle of this irrigation system. Afterwards, turning a water valve allows a stream to flow and dislodges the key down into the courtyard. Picking it up reveals it's a classroom key. Using the key allows us to access the upstairs classrooms, and it makes a way for us to get to the locked stairwell. Inside the stairwell, we can make our way down to the basement. Here we can find a stash of shotgun shells and a new healing item called Ampule. Deeper into the basement, we are presented with a new puzzle. We have to turn a set of valves in the correct order to unlock a passageway. I couldn't exactly tell what was going on. I see a rotating device that is engulfing a humanoid figure on fire. Before I could process that, a deep bellowing roar put me in flight or fight. A giant beast was making its way towards me. The silence here is oddly eerie for a boss battle. I kited around the arena and let the big guy eat a face full of lead, but it only seemed to piss it off even more. Before I could react, its mouth snapped wide open, and due to poor positioning, I was backed into a wall and swallowed whole. This was the first time I died in my Silent Hill playthrough. To add salt to wounds, the game gave me a tip that kinda just pissed me off even more. It was at this point that I vowed that I would not die again in this playthrough. Thankfully, I saved not too long before this moment, and I took this opportunity to look for more supplies. During all this, I noticed something. Not die again. It just pissed me off even more. It was at this point that I vowed that I would not die again in this playthrough. Thankfully, I saved not too long before this moment, and I took this opportunity to look for more supplies. During all this, I noticed something. In our inventory, we had the library reserve key. I talked about it earlier when the dead body fell out of the locker, but we never did end up using it. So I backtracked, found the library, and inside there's a book that, after reading it, it clicked in my head like a light bulb. The book talks about a hunter fighting a giant lizard. It's only when the lizard is taunted and threatens to swallow the hunter whole, he readies his bow and strikes when the mouth is fully open. In this case, we are the hunter and the lizard is the boss. We need to shoot the lizard until it gets pissed off. At this point, it will start to gape its mouth open, and that's when we can hit our kill shots. Repeat this process enough times, and that's when we can claim victory. Once the fight is over, we get a small glimpse of the woman that we avoided that originally caused us to crash our car.
Bruh. Huh? What was that? Who in the hell was that?
Good old Harry Sherlock Mason here, always asking the hard-hitting questions. I'm giving the man shit, but with us surviving Midwich, we are just left with more questions than answers, and we didn't find Cheryl anywhere in the school. We can find a key labeled K. Gordon. Light fills the school. I can confidently say we aren't in the nightmare realm anymore. However, church bells are ringing through the entire town. Our map guides us to a place called Balkan Church. My initial thought was that maybe Sybil was signaling out to us, so I guess we should head that way. Leaving the school was a surreal experience. After spending quite a few hours surviving inside the school, it was refreshing to see the thick fog, muted sunlight, and low poly snow raining on us. Don't get me wrong, this area is still dangerous, but after overcoming all the obstacles that were thrown at us, it almost makes you feel empowered that you can handle just about anything the outside areas of Silent Hill have to offer. Using the K. Gordon house key, we're able to pick up a few supplies and make our way back to the intersections of Silent Hill. Arriving at the church, we are greeted by someone entirely new.
Were you ringing that bell?
I've been expecting you. It was foretold by gyromancy.
What are you talking about?
I knew you'd come. You want the girl, right?
You're talking about Cheryl.
I see everything.
You know something. Tell me.
This is Dahlia Gillespie, an important figure for the story going forward. She definitely knows what's going on in the town and seems to know where Cheryl is, but is refusing to elaborate further, which to me personally is the biggest red flag I've ever seen.
What? What are you talking about?
Dahlia believes we need to follow some kind of path using a tool called Flauros. According to her, it can battle the darkness that's inside the town. Her wording makes it seem like she is giving us the tools to fix the town, but given that red flag from earlier, I'm highly skeptical of her intentions. Before we can question her further, she says we need to quickly head to the hospital before leaving without saying a word.
Wait, don't go yet.
Our current situation isn't ideal, and we have very little to go off of, so we kinda have to blindly follow her instructions. Taking the Flauros off the preacher's stand, it becomes an item in our inventory. Underneath all of that, there was also a key for the drawbridge. Trying to follow where Dahlia left shows that she locked the door from the inside. Inspecting our surroundings shows that there's not really anything out of the ordinary, at least on the surface. It's kinda just reminiscent of a typical Lutheran church. Heading east, we can approach the drawbridge. Inside the control room, we can find a map of Silent Hill's shopping district. I quickly notice there's a police station on the map. I know we're supposed to go to the hospital, but I would imagine we might be able to run into Sybil, and if not, surely there should be ammo for our weapons and more information. If anyone should know anything, it should be the police. Using the key we just found earlier in the church, we can lower the drawbridge, allowing us access into Silent Hill's shopping district. As soon as I crossed into the shopping district, I was ambushed by a new enemy. This is the Romper. Its movements are similar to an ape. Its lunges are powerful enough to knock the player to the ground. If you find yourself in this position, it will start to viciously tear into the player's abdomen and neck. A few well-timed shots were able to put it down like Harambe, but the area is swarming with these guys. So I decided it was best to dash into the local police station for cover. The station is completely abandoned. Thankfully, someone left us a nice stash of ammo. Inspecting a chalkboard on the wall allows us to learn that the police were tracking down a substance called White Claudia. If we put two and two together, we can assume this substance is an ingredient to manufacture a drug. There isn't much else inside the police station, so it's about time we head to that hospital. Arriving at the gates of Alchemilla Hospital, we hear the sounds of gunshots. Upon entering, another shot rings out. Determined to find the source, I opened the door and discovered something unexpected.
Hold it! Stop! Don't shoot!
Yeah, I see how this guy is still alive. He has a strict shoot first, ask questions later policy.
Thank God, another human being. I'm Dr. Michael Kaufman. I work at this hospital.
So maybe you can tell me what's going on.
I really can't say. I was taking a nap in the staff room. When I woke up, it was like this. Everyone seems to have disappeared. And it's snowing out, this time of year. Something's gone seriously wrong. Did you see those monsters? Have you ever seen such aberrations? Ever even heard of such things? You and I both know creatures like that don't exist.
This is Dr. Michael Kaufman. Despite trying to shoot Harry, it's hard to get a good read on the guy. His word choice makes it seem like he has no idea what's going on, but his tone makes me beg to differ.
She's missing. I'm sorry. But with all those monsters around, I highly doubt that she's... Sorry, I didn't mean to alarm you. Well, I'd better be going. I can't just sit around here doing nothing.
So long. Good luck out there.
After interacting with Kaufman, we can find a map of the basement along with a basement key in a nearby room. As I explored the area, I noticed a set of plastic bottles in the kitchen. To my surprise, we were able to pick one up, and it didn't take me long to find a use for it. In the next room over, I found an office that looked vandalized on purpose. Behind a desk, there was a puddle of red goo. Well, the game just gave me a bottle, and there's smashed liquids all over the floor. So, you know, I went ahead and used the bottle. This gives us a new item called Unknown Liquid. I tried to read the books scattered about, but nothing could give me a clue on what this was. So I guess we'll have to just figure that out later. Entering the basement, I discovered there wasn't any power, but our radio is picking up on something. Turning on my flashlight caused a swarm of creepers to bomb rush me, and you know I keep that pipe on. Clearing out the basement allows us to enter the generator room where we can restore power to the elevators. Here we can see that the hospital has 3 different levels, but visiting each floor brings us to a locked door, halting our progress. After leaving the 3rd floor though, something's changed. A 4th floor button has materialized out of nowhere. With no other options, I guess we have to press the button. But when the doors open, a vision infiltrates our psyche. It was hard to make out, but it looked like the girl that we saw in the boiler room was entering some kind of antique shop. However, that will have to be the least of our worries right now. A quick look at the floors shows that we are probably in the nightmare realm again. Which is very odd because this time around we didn't hear the typical air sirens. Trying to leave this floor is useless as nothing happens when interacting with the elevator. We are forced to confront whatever lies ahead. Your best bet is heading back down to the basement. On your way there, you will encounter something that I'd call a rarity in the Silent Hill series. This enemy is called the Puppet Doctor, and it's a corpse being controlled by a parasite protruding out of its backside. I called it a rarity because this is the only time you will fight a male doctor in any of the Silent Hill games. For every entry going forward, it's typically only nurses that are women, so yeah, interesting. I can't say that this enemy will give you much trouble due to how slow it is, but it does have quite a bit of health. Nothing a barrage of bullets can't handle. If violence isn't in your code of conduct, turning off your flashlight makes you practically invisible to them. On your way down to the basement, it would be a good idea to pick up the Plate of Queen. Be wary, as from here on out, the game ramps up the jump scares. Down in the basement, it's swarming with another new enemy called the Puppet Nurse. It's just like the doctor, but with a woman instead of a man. Keeping our flashlight off, we can slip through undetected. Here we can find the real reason we came down to the basement first. Inside the generator room, we can find the emergency hammer. Hands down, this is one of the best weapons you can find on your first Silent Hill playthrough. Enemies that took a whole magazine to get rid of are gone in 2 to 3 swings max. We also have easy access to the elevator so we can get around the hospital. In room 201, guarded by a hostile nurse, we can find a Zippo lighter on a patient's bed. We'll hold on to this for now. To progress through the hospital, we'll need to find more plates to open a special locked door. We already have Plate of Queen, so we need to track down 3 more. The first 2 are simple enough. Our second plate can be found on the 3rd floor, inside a grungy bathroom, along with another jump scare. Our third plate is found hanging on the wall in room 306, thankfully with no jump scare. But the 4th and final plate takes a little bit of prep to get it. Inside room 204, there's a new enemy called the Bloodsucker, and it's blocking our way to the final plate. Anyone with higher than lukewarm IQ can tell that touching this thing will be an instant game over, so melee is out of the picture. Firearms also don't hurt the monster whatsoever. So here is what you have to do. The monster is clearly interested in deep-throating some blood, so inside a supply closet on the 3rd floor, you'll find an item called Blood Pack. Using this near the monster, it will create a new blood puddle that distracts the monster just enough so we can slip by and grab the final plate. Now, you know I love to let you know references to popular literature, and if you've been an Eagle Eye viewer, these plates might ring a bell. They're all one big reference to Alice in Wonderland. Plate of Cat, Plate of Hatter, Plate of Queen, and Plate of Turtle, all iconic characters from Alice in Wonderland. Silent Hill derives inspiration from many different works of art, ranging from literature, theater, film, and even comics by Junji Ito. Team Silent were a bunch of lovable nerds, and I see this as just a nod to a very influential piece of literature. With all the plates in the wall, we're able to access the east side of 2nd floor. Here the world is far more corrupted, with gaping holes in the floor and way more nurses to fight. We only need to get 2 items from here: a basement storeroom key alongside a bottle of rubbing alcohol. Taking the elevator back to the basement, we can unlock the storeroom. Within, we can find illicit substances in a suspicious looking cabinet. Moving it reveals a hidden door in the basement. Beyond the door, there's a hidden entrance, but it's blocked by an overgrowth of vines. Thankfully, we have a few items to deal with this. We need to soak the vines inside the rubbing alcohol, and then use the Zippo lighter we found in room 201 to set them ablaze. This reveals a set of stairs where we are ambushed by a ton of nurses. Down here we can find a videotape along with a disturbing revelation.
What's this? Looks like someone's been here.
Okay, so this is a picture of the girl that's been haunting us since the beginning of the game. We now know that her name is Alessa, and although she isn't here, we can assume that this was her room. But this room is inside a hospital, underneath the basement, hidden behind a cabinet door. My mind initially thought about Dr. Kaufman. Being a doctor for Alchemilla Hospital, he has to know something, right? I guess the rabbit hole just gets deeper and deeper. In the same room, we can find the examination room key. I didn't talk about it earlier, but if you try to interact with this door, the sounds of heels could be heard scurrying around. I chalked it up to the game being weird, but with the key, I guess we can find out. The sounds we heard came from a scared nurse named Lisa.
My name's Lisa Garland.
Similar to Dr. Kaufman, she was out cold when all the shenanigans unfolded.
I must have gotten knocked out. When I came to, everyone was gone.
Prodding information from Lisa will be next to none, and when confronted about the basement, she has no idea what we are talking about.
Do you know anything about all that weird stuff in the basement?
No. Why? Is there something down there?
According to Lisa, the hospital had a strict do not enter policy for the basement. Before we can even articulate what we saw, Harry has what I can only describe as a mild brain aneurysm.
Well, it's... Damn. My head.
What's wrong? Harry?
Was I dreaming?
You were too late.
Waking back up in a hospital bed, we're approached by no other than Dahlia Gillespie.
Yes, Dahlia Gillespie.
Dahlia just loves to speak in riddles, so it can be hard to decipher.
Strength must overcome petty desire, childish sleep talk.
But she says if we want to prevent the darkness spreading, we have to stop whoever's placing the giant seals around town.
Have you not seen the crest marked on the ground all over town? It is the mark of Samael. Don't let it be completed.
Dahlia gives us a key to the antique shop, which she refers to as the second church. It makes sense why Dahlia is sending us there. The vision we saw in the hospital 4th floor was Alessa entering the shop, probably to place another seal on the town. I don't trust Dahlia, but she's the only source of information we currently have. But I, for the life of me, can't think as to why a child would be cursing this town. I have a gut feeling Dahlia isn't telling us the whole truth. Using a dusty old phone book, we can get the location of the antique shop. This is a good time to talk about the outdoor areas of Silent Hill. In my opinion, the risk isn't really worth the reward. Save points are a luxury in this game, and typically spaced well out from each other. I bring this up because Silent Hill 1 is far more aggressive than Silent Hill 2. Stepping outside guarantees you will be hunted down by groaners, rompers, and air screamers. Ammo is very generous to balance this out, but I hate using it on optional enemies. This is not Resident Evil 4. Defeating enemies doesn't give you any extra loot or materials. Remember, we aren't winning Silent Hill. We are just surviving. At the antique shop, it's eerily silent, even more so when juxtaposed to the screeching sounds we heard on our way here. The shop has a whole slew of odd knickknacks that could easily be found inside your Nana's attic. At first glance, nothing is really out of the ordinary, until we see a cabinet is hiding a secret entrance.
What's this?
Harry!
Sybil?
I'm glad you're okay.
We finally meet back up with Sybil. She tried to find a way out of town, but learned that everything has gone haywire.
It's nuts. All the roads out of town are blocked. Cars have completely stopped running. The phones and radios are still out too.
She does mention that she saw a small glimpse of what could be Cheryl crossing a lake. According to Sybil, it seemed like she was walking on thin air.
There was no place for her to go. The road has been obliterated. It was like she was walking on thin air.
Harry in turn opens up to Sybil about Dahlia and her ramblings on the town being swallowed by darkness.
She said something about the town being devoured by darkness. Gibberish like that.
This prompts Sybil to let us know that the area has a huge drug trafficking problem.
Must be on drugs.
Harry tries to tell Sybil about all the otherworld experiences he's been having, but Sybil chalks it up to Harry being tired.
Harry, you're tired.
This tells us that Sybil isn't experiencing the same monsters and reality-shifting encounters we are. I would assume whatever darkness is at play affects each person in the town differently.
Let's have a look.
After Harry insists that he should be the one to go down in the hole,
I'm a cop. I should go.
No, I'm going.
Ooh, feisty little thing.
Sybil stands guard and we're able to venture underneath the antique shop. Striding through a rather long hallway, we find what appears to be a shrine.
What's this? Some kind of altar. Maybe this is the other church.
Whatever they were worshipping here looks to be very insidious. On the wall, we can obtain an axe to be used as a weapon, but if you found the emergency hammer earlier in the game, there isn't much of a reason to use it. The hammer just slaps anything that gets in your way. It's too good. Trying to leave the altar must have pissed it off because suddenly it erupts in flames.
What the?
The sudden commotion causes Sybil to check in on us, but we are nowhere to be found.
Harry?
Harry.
Maybe if Harry wasn't being such a
Ooh, feisty little thing.
we wouldn't be having these issues right now.
Where am I?
Harry.
Lisa?
Harry seems to have been transported back to where Lisa is. Something that's interesting is that we've only been able to talk to Lisa when it appears we're in the nightmare realm. Make that what you will.
Nothing you need to worry about.
Asking Lisa about Dahlia gives us a little bit of context on the old woman.
Oh yeah, that crazy Gillespie lady. She's kind of famous around here, but I heard her kid died in a fire and supposedly she's been crazy ever since.
We learn that Silent Hill has a long history of cult activity.
Everybody followed some kind of queer religion. Weird occult stuff. Black magic, that kind of thing.
A cult?
Before we can learn more, we wake up somewhere unfamiliar.
Was that another dream? Did I pass out again?
Still inside the antique shop, but it's been perverted by the nightmare realm. We also see another seal on the floor. Outside the shop, the streets of Silent Hill have been terraformed into a metal jungle. Past a pesky romper, we can find an opening in the town center. I love that there's a parody store called Vestal Gigastore, which is a play on the defunct real-life Virgin Megastores that used to be all over the world until they closed in 2009. Given that the later entries of Silent Hill deal with themes of rebirth, adolescence, and motherhood, this could be a clever nod as to where the themes of the story will go. Trying to take a ride on the escalator causes a trippy scene to unfold.
Cheryl!
This intrigued me so much that I dug around to figure out what the symbols mean. They are actually references to Olympian spirits, which is typically 7 different spirits that each represent a celestial body. This is some super deep occult stuff, so I won't spend too much time on it, but know that I had to enter the fringes of the internet to bring you this information. Upstairs, our radio starts to hum again. In the distance, we can see what looks like a caterpillar feeding on a corpse. Trying to inspect it causes us to fall through the floor. Here we are ambushed by a giant larval creature called the Twin Feeler. Inside the boss room, we can find a new weapon called the hunting rifle. Beating this boss is pretty simple. The creature will burrow itself in the sand, traversing the arena until popping out to do damage. At this point, we can shoot the boss with any firearm of choice and rinse and repeat to secure our victory. We may have won the battle, but not the war. The creature escapes to a window to plot its revenge. Thankfully, the hole it made leads right back into town. Traversing Silent Hill in this state is intense, to put it lightly. A new creature called the Night Flutter plus the Rompers were kicking my ass here as I beeline to the hospital. At the hospital, we can finally meet back up with Lisa and figure out the best way to cross the lake.
Lisa, can you tell me how to get to the lake?
There's a waterworks over by my old elementary school. I remember hearing it runs all the way to the lake.
With a clear goal again, we can leave the hospital and head to the sewers. But the town had different plans. The only way forward is through a set of stairs leading to a rooftop. The Twin Feeler boss fight from before has mutated into the Float Stinger. When the big old bugger busts through the window, it was getting its second wind to kick our ass. Its main form of attacks is using its stinger to lunge at the player and lob poison projectiles. The game, however, prepped us for this moment. If you saved your hunting rifle ammo, you can take it down pretty fast. After some pest control, we make our way to the waterworks and break in using our emergency hammer. This threw me for a loop because this is the only time where we have to hit something to interact with the world. Down the manhole, we find ourselves in Silent Hill's sewer system. The sewers are a divisive section for the Silent Hill fanbase. Some swear it's terrifying, while others believe all sense of horror is lost. I can understand where people are coming from. It can be a slog on repeat playthroughs, and sewers in themselves are pretty mundane. Also, at this point in the game, we have enough ammo to raise a small army. Personally, I fall in the camp that I find the sewers a little bit frightening, but that's because my own personal bias can shine through. In high school, I used to explore abandoned buildings, warehouses, dumpster dive, and traveling through the South, we have a lot of abandoned bunkers. I've done quite a bit of urban exploring in my past. The spacious area of the sewer, while being very dark, combined with the lack of radio, and a lost sense of direction, it was enough to give me a little bit of a spook. It's not the strongest area of Silent Hill 1, but I don't think it's terrible. If you take the time to explore the sewers, you will be rewarded with plenty of ammo and healing items. As you progress, the camera angle changes to a more top-down view of Harry. It almost looks like we're viewing Harry from the perspective of the Hanged Scratchers, which is the unique enemy of this section. They are the little green sewer demons that ambush us around every corner. Taking the sewer key, we can unlock a fenced area that leads up to the second floor. Floor 2 is quite a maze, but we are looking for a dead end that contains a puddle of blood. Past the blood and in the water, we can find the sewer exit key, but taking it causes a trio of scratchers to jump us. I ran into a corner like a dumbass and had to run a fade on the scratchers. With the exit key in hand, we can leave and pop up on the resort side of Silent Hill. The main objective here is to reach the lighthouse and find out where Cheryl went, but this is one area you really want to explore. On the map, we can see there's a bar, convenience store, motel, and even a McDonald's. Even in Silent Hill, you can get a quarter pounder with fries and some of those crack apple pies. Speaking of crack, remember the drugs Sybil was talking about?
Must be on drugs.
There is some truth to that. Heading to Annie's bar, we can find Dr. Kaufman and save his pasty ass.
That muffin is looking awfully like a hamster.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I guess so.
Saving Kaufman or leaving him to die is one of the factors that changes what ending you will get. Even after saving his life, he is still a prick.
Zip. This isn't the time to stand around flapping our gums.
Confronting him about Alessa, he gives a very muted no.
Do you know a girl called Alessa?
No.
This guy is a shit liar, and we're gonna get to the bottom of this. Past the clap mumbler, we can see that Kaufman dropped his room key, along with a receipt from the Indian Runner convenience store. Examining the key shows he was staying at room 3 at the motel, and the receipt shows a secret code. At the convenience store, we can use the code from the receipt to gain entry. The store is in shambles and looks like it's been ransacked recently. We can find a key to the safe, and within we find a treasure trove of drugs. A journal on the counter also confirms that there were mules that operated here. On the wall, we can find a way to get inside the motel using a code for the back delivery door. Here we find a magnet, a lewd poster, and a way to get to Kaufman's motel room. Kaufman's room is as plain Jane as it gets, until you realize there's always something behind the cabinets. Pushing it reveals a hidden item stuck underneath the floorboards. Using the magnet, we can fish it out and we find a motorcycle key. In a garage attached to the motel, we can use the key on the motorcycle and find a strange substance.
Give me that!
Finding the vial causes Kaufman to materialize in a fit of rage. You'd think someone pissed in the old man's Cheerios.
You want to get yourself killed? Get out of here. Unless you want to die, keep your mind on business.
After threatening our life, our side quest comes to a rather sour end. We learn that Kaufman is involved in the narcotics trade around Silent Hill and knows what the contents of the mysterious liquid are. I love that something like this exists in the game, and I wish we had more hidden quests like this. It adds a lot to the replay value and rewards players that want to dig deeper. I adore game design that respects the player's intelligence to connect the dots without holding their hand, and this does it extremely well. Closer to the lighthouse, reality just can't catch a break. Instead of us usually being teleported into the nightmare realm, reality itself is becoming the nightmare. Eventually, we reach a dead end with a rusty old boat moored in water. Here we meet back up with a friendly face.
Sybil!
Harry!
How did you get back here?
I followed the sewer.
Reunited with Sybil, Harry comes up with an idea of what's been happening to the town.
It's not me. This whole town. It's being invaded by the other world. By world of someone's nightmarish delusions come to life.
Again, Sybil isn't buying it.
Harry, this whole thing's been a major blow to you. You need to rest.
Her tone shows that she means well, but the only explanation I have is she can't be experiencing the same Silent Hill we are. She talks about following us through the sewers, but doesn't mention any monsters, and actually hasn't since we first met her. The only occurrence she has mentioned is the cars not working, streets being collapsed, and seeing Cheryl walk on water. You would think that if she encountered any monsters, she would tell us, but she hasn't. Before we can question her about this, we are interrupted by the crazy witch lady herself, Dahlia.
The demon is awakening, spreading those wings.
Every time we try to make sense of something, she is there to make sure we don't.
Hungry for sacrifice, the demon will swallow up the land. And what's more, the task is almost finished. There's only 2 left. To seal this town to the abyss, the mark of Samael. Everyone will die.
So what am I supposed to do? I've got to save Cheryl.
Dahlia, the woman of many words, says that a demon has taken the appearance of Alessa, the child we've been chasing. Apparently, there are 2 seals left before irreparable doom hits the town, one seal being at the lighthouse and one being at the amusement park. So Harry and Sybil have a big brain idea to split up in Silent Hill of all places to stop the last seals.
I'll check out the amusement park. You go to the lighthouse.
This is a dumb idea. Every single time these two have split up, nothing good has ever happened. Making your way to the lighthouse will really test how well you know the tank controls that Silent Hill 1 uses. Everywhere you look, there is a monster ready to rip your face off. Approaching the lighthouse, the camera pans out to give the building a sense of scale. It's a surreal experience seeing this towering architecture in the pitch black night. Up the stairs, a sense of looming dread comes over us as we venture up to the unknown. The overhead camera angle combined with the suspenseful soundtrack really made me feel like I was teleporting into another dimension. We finally catch up to Alessa, but we are too late. The seal is already complete. Back at the boat, we wait for Sybil, but Sybil never
hasn't
came.
come back. That creep's sure to show up at the amusement park pretty soon.
To get to the amusement park, we have to venture through the sewers again. This time, it's a straight shot from one ladder to the other, but the area is far more hostile than before. The music, combined with a small army of enemies, plus sounds that would spook you in the middle of the night, create a very unsettling experience. The horror here is not subtle, it's very much in your face. The amusement park is creepy as hell. In the pitch black, we see ghost rides operating throughout without a single soul in sight. Approaching the merry-go-round, we discover something sinister. I was pretty adamant that splitting up would not be a good idea, and I don't want to say I told you so, but one of us is possessed like a puppet nurse and the other isn't. There are 2 ways to deal with this Sybil boss fight. You can put her out of her misery, or if you have the strange liquid we found back in the hospital, you can dump it on her, purging the parasite from her body.
Harry, what happened?
Shh, don't talk. I'll take care of you.
Saving or offing Sybil is one of the choices that impacts which ending you get. Saving Sybil also unlocks some context in terms of the story. We learn that Cheryl isn't Harry's biological daughter.
You know, Cheryl isn't my biological daughter. We found her abandoned on the side of the highway. Nobody knew where she came from.
And that she was adopted when he and his wife found her on the side of a highway. Sadly, Harry's wife was terminally ill and eventually passed away not too long after. This doesn't mean much now, but as we finally uncover the truth, it will all thread together. Finally, after hours of chasing, we can finally have a word with Alessa.
I figured you'd show. I don't know who you are or what you're trying to do, and I don't care. Just one thing. Let Cheryl go. That's all I ask.
Alessa, however, isn't putting up with any of our shit right now.
What?
No matter what we try to do, we can't seem to get close to her.
Damn.
But then, the fly roast we had in our inventory activates out of the blue.
What is this?
The Flora seems to have shot a beam that neutralizes Alessa's psychic powers, and whenever shit goes down, you already know Dahlia Gillespie will be there.
You've been a ghastly little pest, haven't you, Alessa?
No! Get away from me!
Everything is ready. Let's go home.
Dahlia kidnaps Alessa and transports her to another place. Her tone and wording gives a very malicious intent. The aftermath of all this sees us waking back up with Lisa, of all people. Lisa is visibly scared. After telling us that she visited the basement, she describes having a sense of deja vu, like she's been there before.
But while I was down there, I got this weird feeling. Like I'd been there before.
This is odd, given earlier in the game, she stated that she's never been in the basement.
Do you know anything about all that weird stuff in the basement?
No? Why? Is there something down there?
Trying to calm her down is unsuccessful as she storms off in a hurry. A sudden noise can be heard from the basement level. The ground below us starts to shake violently, as if something is about to erupt from the basement. Approaching the source, the elevator doors swing open as if we're being summoned personally.
I'm being summoned. What happened in this town? What could be making things like this? I have a feeling if I take the elevator down, I'll find it.
Down here, we're in a place called Nowhere. Here, reality is not as it seems. Every door you enter has the ability to teleport you to various sections we've explored previously. 1 minute you're in the hospital, and through a door, boom, you're now in the school. There are a myriad of puzzles to solve with varying levels of intricacies. So from here on out, things are gonna happen very fast. On our operating table, we're going to find a pair of pliers and a screwdriver. Using the pliers, we can dislodge a key labeled Ophiel. This key unlocks a door that opens another section of the hospital. On the wall, we can find a slate that has a Grim Reaper list of names and ages. Sorting the ages by youngest to oldest and taking the first letter of each name spells out the phrase alert. Using this phrase on an otherworldly lock unlocks a supply closet where we can find the Amulet of Solomon. Leaving this area, we run into an alarmed Lisa.
Lisa, what's the matter with you?
I get it now. Why I'm still alive even though everyone else is dead.
Lisa finally remembers her past and her connection to the basement. She tells us that she is no different from the other puppet nurses we've been slaughtering the entire playthrough. Trying to embrace us for protection, we don't let her, shoving her away from us. With the truth revealed, a horrifying sight unfolds before us.
Lisa?
Lisa is a deeply tragic character, and one that has deep connections to the plot of Silent Hill. Re-entering the room, we can see that she is nowhere to be found. Only a diary remains in her place. Reading the diary details that Lisa not only knew that there was a basement, but she was the head nurse that resided there. This diary is a bombshell in itself. The words we can infer a lot from, but we don't have the full picture. Put a mental footnote in your brain because once we do, we will definitely come back to this. Past the encounter with Lisa, we can find a zodiac puzzle. You have to count how many appendages are inside each corresponding zodiac sign, and that will give you the code to release the Stone of Time. With the stone in hand, through a hospital door, we are teleported back to the antique shop. Here we can use the Stone of Time to find the Key of Haggoth. The Key of Haggoth unlocks the hospital's elevators, allowing use to explore more floors. Through another door, we are teleported to the jewelry shop found in Silent Hill's shopping district. Here we discover the Ring of Contract and Crest of Mercury. In a nearby room, we can also pick up a camera, which is used to solve a puzzle on the 3rd floor. Taking a flash picture of paintings on the wall reveals hidden symbols we need to unlock 2 sets of doors. The first door gives us the birdcage key, while the second provides more lore on the substance White Claudia. We learned that the cult used it for religious ceremonies. On the first floor, we can use the birdcage key we found to open a bird cage and find the key of Phalag. I also love how you can hear the flutters of wings, but after taking the key, it goes completely silent. Using the key of Phalag, we enter the basement area where Alessa was kept. Here, the game subverts my expectations yet again with a new enemy. Remember the ghost babies from earlier? Yeah, they've grown up now. First they wanted to hug you, now they're teenagers and they want to stab you. I joke, but this is brilliant. The whole game, they've built up this enemy type to be a non-combative enemy despite causing the radio to go off. Here we are near the very end of the game and they subvert your expectations again by putting one with a knife. You've betrayed my trust, Silent Hill, and I love it. This game always finds ways to keep you on your toes. Down here, we enter a room that teleports us to the hospital kitchen. Here, we're presented with just a fridge. Interacting with the fridge, this happened. So yeah, earlier in this video, I made a vow to never die again, and I'm sticking to it. Let me explain what just happened. When you interact with the fridge, you are presented with what sounds like a creature hiding inside, and you see a broken chain. Afterwards, a pop-up happens to grab an item. Now, normally I would take it, but my gut feeling was to not trust it, which I'm glad. At this point, if you interact with the fridge without using a certain item, well, this happens. Yeah, and that would have been bad for me because I hadn't saved my game in a hot minute. If you remember the Ring of Contract we picked up earlier, you have to use it on the fridge to bind the chain together, and then you can open the fridge and nothing happens to you, allowing you to take the item in hand, which is the Dagger of Melchior. But it gets better. The next door I entered, I'm presented with a prompt. Jelly beans. Do you want to open the bag? I shit you not, I fucking sat here for 10 minutes straight debating if I should open a bag of jelly beans. I should not be scared of jelly beans of all things, but here I am, trembling with my controller in hand at the thought that I could die to a bag of jelly beans. This is absurd and I love it. This is some shit that only Silent Hill could pull off. And it's one of the reasons I spent the past 45 days working on this video. Opening the jelly beans, you just get a key. There's no instant death, there's no monster popping out. You're not gonna get swallowed by the jelly bean monster. But the fact right before this point, a seemingly simple fridge could game end you immediately is what stokes this level of fear in the player. When a developer gaslets you so well where you're left wondering if opening a bag of jelly beans could mean progressing through the story or losing 2 hours worth of progress, that's a unique horror experience. Digging through the beans gives us the key of Bethor. We also can find a VCR player nearby, which if you remember, we found the VCR tape quite a while ago when we first entered the hospital basement. Playing the tape shows the dirty truth that plagued Lisa.
Still has an unusually high fever. Eyes don't open. Getting a pulse, but just barely breathing. Her skin is all charred. Even when I change the bandages, the blood and pus just start oozing through. Why? What is keeping that child alive? I can't stand it any longer. I won't tell a soul. Promise. So please.
She didn't want to keep Alessa alive, something that was hinted in the diary entry. Again, keep that as a mental footnote because it's all going to come full circle. Across the hall, we enter a bizarre graffiti room with a young Alessa crying in the corner. There are schizophrenic-like scribbles plastering every inch of the wall. I couldn't find much in this room, but I would assume this place represents Alessa's trauma of being bullied, used, and manipulated. On the wall, we can also find an Egyptian ankh. Using the key of Bethor gives us access to the generator room. This is important because earlier, using the pliers we found, we were able to unscrew a plate from the wall. Within was a key that was electrified. Turning off the generator allows us to get this key called Aeratron. This is the final key we need to beat.
I would never hurt anyone. I'm not a monster.
You don't speak French. It's a problem.
Well, I'm say already.
Well, perhaps it's better not to try. You don't speak French. It's a problem.
Well,